Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. Joining us now is political strategist, author, and radio host Dick Morris. You can hear his show live every day from 2 to 6 p.m. online at dickmorris.com and on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT in Philadelphia. Now, we've got a lot to talk about here, but let's start with this IRS scandal. It's becoming clearer that this strategy of targeting conservative and Tea Party groups for auditing goes perhaps all the way to the top of the IRS. But despite the strong words we heard from the president yesterday, is there any doubt in your mind that somebody inside the White House, someone inside the administration knew that this was going on?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind of that because I knew about it. Everybody who was in politics, who worked on at least the Republican side, knew that the Tea Party groups were being audited. I gave speeches about it. Now, I didn't know that there was a memo from the top in the IRS saying audit these guys, but I knew that they were being singled out for special attention. Everybody knew that. And there was a front page story in the New York Times that said that Romney donors were being audited. This stuff was no secret. And I think the president is parsing words when he says he didn't know. What he's saying, maybe he didn't know about that specific memo from that specific person with that particular language, but he sure knew that there was a widespread policy of auditing Republican conservative groups.
Yeah, you mentioned the New York Times article. There was complaints about this going all the way back to 2010. From what you've seen, though, out of all this, what's more appalling to you, the fact that they've denied it one step after the other, or the fact that they were doing this in the first place?
Well, always in Washington scandals, you have the action and then you have the cover-up, and he's just about to start getting in trouble with the cover-up. But I think the policy of auditing people with IRS and using it as a weapon goes back to Nixon, and we already know that that's grounds for impeachment. So when he says he didn't know about it, his entire fate is now hanging on the strength of an email somebody may or may not have sent.
And so you think this is out of everything that's been talked about with Benghazi and everything else, that you think this is the item that might lead to impeachment for President Obama?
It could, because we are that using the IRS as a tool to get your enemies is an impeachable offense. The House has voted to impeach Nixon for that, and it's always easier to plow ground that's been plowed before.
And so there's precedent there for that. Give us an idea of how that would all play out. Are we going to see more?
I think what's going to happen is you're going to get a congressional hearing. They're going to call some of these people under oath. They'll call Miller, for example, the head of the IRS. They'll call Schuman, the former head of the IRS, and they'll ask, "Did you know about this?" And Schuman actually will have to eat his testimony where he said he didn't know about it. And Miller will have to eat the fact that he responded to a letter from Senator Orrin Hatch and did not mention it, even though Hatch asked him about it. But then the obvious question is, who else knew? Who did you tell? And I doubt that there's a lot of people that are willing to commit perjury to save the president. And undoubtedly what will happen is they'll say, well, I told thus and such in the White House. And then they'll get this person under oath, and you just go step by step up the food chain. And it's always, what did he know and when did he know it? This has a long way to go. But at least at the end of it, there's an impeachable offense, which is the key thing.
All right, so that's we'll put that aside for now. A lot more to come on that as well. But we got to talk about another potential scandal coming out of the White House, and that is this deal with the Associated Press. The Justice Department snooped on reporters' phone calls with administration officials and seized private phone records. Not only does it appear that happened, but once again, it looks like the administration is trying or has been trying to use intimidation to keep this quiet. Is this scandal the one that finally ends the career of Eric Holder at the Justice Department?
Well, I don't know about that one way or the other, because it depends on what Obama's tolerance is and also what he knows that he could spill and hurt Obama with. But I do believe that the manipulation of the seizure of these AP phone lines, of these records for the AP phone lines, clearly is overbroad in what they were apparently trying to do. Apparently they were trying to find out who leaked information about al-Qaeda's involvement in Yemen and our targeting policy against al-Qaeda. And that the leak came to the AP and they were trying to figure out who leaked. This investigation of leakers, which predominated during the Nixon era, becomes endless. It just goes on, and it can lead to more and more seizure and intrusion with the free press. And it's a very dangerous and slippery slope. And the government's burden is to prove that it had no other way of investigating this. And I don't think they can meet that burden. And I think this is going to be another big deal.
Now, we keep hearing the name Nixon come up, not just from you, but from a lot of people. And is President Obama the most Nixonian president since Nixon himself?
Well, he certainly is acting that way. I'm taking to calling him Barack Milhous Obama. Formerly, we were all excoriated for using Hussein Obama. So now I'm using Milhous Obama, which was Nixon's middle name. I think the common denominator here is the sense of an enemies list, the sense of us against them. In Nixon's case, it was the silent majority against the hippies. In this case, it's the 99% against the 1%. And all's fair in class war. And I think that spawned a recklessness that I think got out of control. And I think Obama's management style, which is sort of laid back and non-interventionist, probably fed that. You have a unique combination here. You have Nixonian motivation and passion, and Reagan-esque intention to detail.
That could make for a deadly combination. What did you make yesterday of Jay Carney's approach to handling this, just deferring reporters to the DOJ? It was obviously very tense in the White House briefing room yesterday, but do you feel like it was a cop-out for Carney just to take that approach?
Yeah, I mean, Carney is very embarrassed because of his lies about Benghazi, and he's now been found out for that. And I think he's determined not to put any more lies out there, because when he leaves this job, which will be sooner rather than later, he's got to go back to the media, and I don't think he's expecting great reception.
Yeah, it's a 2-year career is about as long as a press secretary can last in the White House.
It's like bull riding in a rodeo.
That's a great metaphor for it. Let's talk about Benghazi a little bit before we discuss the implementation of Obamacare. House Oversight Committee Darrell Issa, well, he's got a lot on his plate right now. But a couple of polls seem to show that the American people aren't really too interested in Benghazi. Maybe interested, but not really having their minds swayed by what's going on. A public policy poll shows that voters still trust Hillary Clinton over House Republicans on the issue of Benghazi by a margin of 49 to 39%. And there's also a Rasmussen poll that showed yesterday that Hillary's popularity really hasn't taken a hit here. What's your take on how the American people are paying attention to this?
These scandals take a long time to metastasize, and they take a long time to seep through into public opinion. And it will not happen quickly, and it will happen toward the end of the process, not toward the beginning. But then there's another factor that we all have to consider, which is that you have in this country now 40% of the American people who will never think ill of Obama and never say that they have a bad opinion of him. Not because of Obama, but because of themselves. They look in the mirror and they find out that they're black, Latino, single mothers, gay, and students, and they say, so therefore I have to be for Obama, or at least against the Republicans, because they're against me. And this sort of identity politics is stopping Obama from getting high unfavorables, and will continue to stop it until the Republican Party comes to its senses and starts reaching out to these groups and starts acting less exclusionary.
Now, Congress, of course, seems to be willing to invest a lot of resources and time into this Benghazi investigation. So it might be a while, but more details are going to come out. And when all that information finally does come out, what do you think will ultimately do the most damage, or whose career will suffer the most damage as a result of this? Perhaps the legacy of current President Obama or Clinton?
I think the last stage of this scandal will be sniping between Clinton and Obama, and Bill might get involved in that. And I think that Hillary will be reluctant to take this rap, and Obama will be reluctant to take it also. And the nice thing about it is it's kind of a zero-sum game between them. One or the other of them is going to get badly hurt, and I think they'll increasingly start fighting with each other. Obviously, Hillary has more to lose because Secretary of State is her only line on the resume to become president. And if that becomes a failure, she's in tough shape. I think already the reason that there was not military intervention and rescue effort, on the one hand, was Obama's desire to appease his pro-peace constituency, and on the other hand, was Hillary's desire to try to minimize this thing and snuff out the stories that she should have known because they were warned.
All right, Dick, good talking to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.